Ex-Proud Boys leader, pardoned by Trump, helped initiate Capitol riot. Did you ever think a single pardon could shake the nation? Enrique Tarrio, the former Proud Boys leader convicted for his role in the January 6th Capitol attack, has just been granted clemency by Donald Trump. What does this mean for justice, accountability, and the future of political extremism in America? Stay with us as we dive into Tarrio's rise, his 22-year sentence, and the controversial pardon that's sparking fierce debates across the country. What would you do if you held the power to pardon someone like him? For the second time, on January 20th, 2025, former President Donald Trump made news when he gave Enrique Tarrio, the former leader of the far-right group called the Proud Boys, an extraordinary pardon. Tarrio had been in jail for 22 years, which was the longest sentence of the almost 1,600 people charged with the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. People are arguing again about justice, responsibility, and the role of extremist groups in American politics after this controversial act of clemency. What does Enrique Tarrio do? Enrique Tarrio, who is 42 years old now, has been a well-known person on the far right for many years. You could always spot Tarrio because he wore sunglasses and a baseball cap. He became famous across the country as the leader of the Proud Boys, a group known for its violent actions and seditious protests. After the founder, Gavin McInnes, left the group in 2018, he took over as leader. As Tarrio led the Proud Boys, they got more and more involved in fights at protests. It all started with the famous neo-Nazi gathering in Charlottesville, Virginia, in 2017, where Tarrio made his name. People who were part of the Proud Boys called themselves Western chauvinists. They became well known when President Trump told them to stand back and stand by during a 2020 presidential debate. Tarrio replied right away on social media by writing, "Standing by, sir." This event made the group look even more like a violent part of Trump's political base and put Tarrio in the national spotlight. What part Tarrio played on January 6th? Enrique Tarrio had a big impact at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, 2021, even though he wasn't there in person. A local judge had told Tarrio to leave Washington, D.C. just a few days before the attack because he was facing separate criminal charges for damaging a black church during an earlier pro-Trump protest. Even though Tarrio wasn't there, federal officials painted a very bad picture of his part in planning what the Proud Boys did on January 6th. Prosecutors wrote in court papers that Tarrio helped put together the Ministry of Self-Defense, a small group of hand-picked members of the Proud Boys. This clique was very important to the attack. Its members broke through police lines, fought with police, and urged other rioters to storm the Capitol. There is video from that day that shows members of Proud Boys in the middle of several deadly fights. Prosecutors also used text messages that Tarrio and his friends sent each other during the attack. These messages showed that Tarrio was closely watching what was going on from away, and they seemed to support the group's plans to stop the 2020 presidential election results from being certified. Attorneys for the government said that Tarrio and the Proud Boys were hungry for violence and planning for action to support Donald Trump's presidency, no matter what the law or the courts said about it. The January 6th sentence that was the longest. Enrique Tarrio was found guilty of seditious conspiracy and other crimes in September 2023. This is a charge that is rarely used and has roots in the Civil War. His 22-year sentence was the harshest punishment for what happened on January 6th. This shows how important his part was in planning and carrying out the attack. When Tarrio was being sentenced, he was sorry for his part in the Capitol riot and called it a national embarrassment. He told the judge, "I am not a political zealot," but the judge didn't seem to change his mind. Instead, the judge stressed that people should be held responsible for acts that tried to weaken American democracy. Trump's pardon and what it means. A lot of people are upset about Donald Trump's move to pardon Enrique Tarrio. Some people are against the pardon because they say it weakens the rule of law and sends the dangerous message that political violence is okay if it helps powerful people. Trump fans, on the other hand, see the pardon as a sign of loyalty to his supporters and an admission that many of them are still upset about the 2020 election. The pardon of Tarrio happens at the same time that Trump is trying to change the story of January 6th. Ever since he left office, Trump has played down what happened that day, calling the protesters patriots and calling the charges that followed illegal. By pardoning Tarrio, Trump has made it clear that he agrees with this revisionist view of January 6th. This is true, even though who is legally responsible for the attack is still a controversial question in American politics. The fact that Tarrio cooperated with investigators. The fact that Enrique Tarrio either worked with or didn't work with government investigators is one of the most interesting parts of his story. According to Tarrio, prosecutors offered him a lighter sentence if he could prove their idea that he had talked to Trump through middlemen before January 6th. Tarrio said he didn't believe these claims, which could have made Trump happy when they were made public. It's still not clear exactly how Tarrio interacted with detectives, but the fact that he wouldn't blame Trump shows how complicated and often unclear the relationship is between the former president and far-right groups like the Proud Boys. This situation has led to more rumors about how much Trump may have worked with or affected extremists while he was president. More general implications. Enrique Tarrio's pardon shows how tense things are in American society still about who is responsible for what happened on January 6th and the bigger problem of political violence. There were many people who saw what happened that day as an attack on democracy, and Tarrio's acts showed how dangerous organized extremist groups can be. His release, which was made possible by a past president who still has a lot of power in the Republican Party, shows how divided the United States still is. It's also important to remember that Tarrio's story shows how political violence can hurt people. Even though Tarrio said he was sorry for what he did on January 6th, what he did and what the people he led did had huge effects on the country. The attack on the Capitol will always be remembered as a dark day in the country's history. It's not clear if Tarrio will become less well-known or try to get back into the public eye, but his legacy as a symbol of extremism and a source of controversy will not be quickly forgotten. Don't miss out on in-depth stories like this. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay updated with the latest insights and breaking news.